So let us start with the audience poll before I ask questions to our panelists. So have you ever faced a cybersecurity compliance review or an audit in last 1 year? Please raise your hands for that. Others who are not raising, have they not faced any review or audit in last 1 year? Okay. So my CISOs here are telling that they are non-compliant. And next question is, basis that audit, are you confident that you will not face a cyber incident? Yes, no. So at least whoever raised the hands, they are not raising their hands. That means the compliance checklist-based checks are not ensuring that they will not be facing a cyber incident. And that's the theme for today, which is around cybersecurity beyond compliance, building a culture of digital trust. So we'll have 4 themes in this panel. Each of my panel members will respond to 2 of the themes. Since there is a paucity of time and we are behind the track as well, I'll request my panel members to restrict to 3 to 4 minutes per question. And we'll start with the first theme, which is from compliance to proactive risk management. So Alok ji, kindly share, how are PSUs moving from beyond checklist-based compliance to a proactive risk management? And what has been the biggest mindset shift in doing so?
Thank you. That's a wonderful question. And before I answer the question, disclaimer, views expressed are strictly personal, do not in any manner reflect views of my organization that I have served either in the past or I serve today. Now, the question that you asked, you probably just got an answer in the audience poll. The norm is still that cybersecurity is being looked at as a compliance requirement. And I am unfamously called ransomware as a boon because that is where the board's attention went to the bottom line, where the impact of cybersecurity was directly on the bottom line. So, of late, after proliferation of ransomware, there has been a significant sensitization in the boards of ensuring cybersecurity. But cybersecurity is something which is also a risk. So there are 2 ways to going about addressing this. One is the compliance way, where you say, okay, I'm compliant, and the new DPDP, in fact, actually strengthens the compliance part of it, where they're looking at you to show credibility that you had taken those steps to ensure security, and still certain incident has happened. So to that extent, the DPDP also pushes it towards compliance. However, business leaders, boardrooms who are focused about business continuity, they are looking at avoidance of cyber incidents or minimizing of the cyber attack surface. This, fortunately, unfortunately, has till now has been left to the people who are managing it at the technical level. So there is a slight gap in the business and the technical synchronization, and to that extent, I would say that the proactive bit that is expected, where you start doing threat intel reconnaissance for people who have already infiltrated your defense landscape, that is not up to the level where it should be, except for certain essential DPIs which are there, like the UPI and the Aadhars. But in normal public sector is not to that level. That is my reading. It will be too broad brushing, but that is my reading in normal public sector. It is not to that extent. So that is my thought.
Sure. So let's bring in Sandeep ji in this conversation. Sandeep ji, why don't you add the color from financial data and the infrastructure that you handle? So please bring in that color.
Good afternoon all. The synergy of such events where service providers, users, policy makers all are sitting together and discussing. So this all makes our reaffirmation and commitment for a cyber resilient digital infrastructure. Now coming to the question about the compliances. So checkbox based compliances were there in the past, but now there is a change in the mind shift that it should not be just a checkbox that we are compliant this quarter, but it should be a continuous process. The risk-based approach is to be followed and is being now followed in most of the organizations. We have to identify our risk. How much is the risk tolerant? Which risk can be tolerated? And if it is a risk, then it has to be mitigated. So compliance should be just a byproduct. This is my take on it, that we should follow the standard processes, we should have the controls in place, the compliance will itself happen. So rather than focusing on compliance, we should focus on the processes and procedures, policies and guidelines, framework to be followed. Thank you.
Sure. So from the media perspective and the digital content pipelines, can you add Sumitji on this aspect? How are you seeing in your industry?
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, we are living in the era of digital transformations. So what we can say that when we talk about the compliances, so our rule is what we are following the X clauses or not. But in the era of the digital transformation is what? Actually, we are living in the era where the larger amount of the information will be there. So in the larger amount of information will be there, the checklist and whatever the clauses we are going to follow, that will be the one of the limitations should be there. And the first thing when we are living in the era of digital transformation, where the large amount of information is following in that, our focus is the risk-based approach. Why? Because when we focus on the risk-based approach, our objective is find out what kind of the risks or what kind of the effect can be done on our objective. So our focus will be toward to getting the goals. And what kind of the things we can do on that, we can parallelly simulate the process and we can put our controls in there, and simultaneously we also do the risks inside that, and you simulate that process so that our goal and the emerging technology, kind of the technology we can also use to predict the kind of the risks will be there. So this kind of the approaches will be give you more toward fulfilling the paperwork toward the proactive approach to meeting the goals.
Thank you, Sumitji. So Sushilji, now healthcare is also going more and more digital, and this is also about our patients' health data as well as other things. So how are you seeing this shift of proactive risk management in your area?
Yeah, good afternoon. It has been observed after the COVID, the maximum attack has come towards the healthcare delivery people. And as per the Gartner's, it is 74% it has been increased as compared to the earlier attacks. And if you compare to any other domains, it is less than that. Means healthcare is more vulnerable right now to everyone. After the 22nd November, the first attack has been done in AIIMS. We have taken a very serious steps. We do regular basis risk management and assessment. Another one is a compliance, how it will be addressed by the government guideline or certain recommendations. Another one is the continuous internal assessment and the external assessment. We are doing it. And we have put our cybersecurity policy in place within our organization. Everyone has to follow it. What it happens, when you will take any steps, you will get a lot of reaction from the user side. But when your policy is unplaced, at that time, when you are applying it, if someone is raised any issues or some groups raise some issues, that can be addressed immediately without any bottlenecks. Next part is that when we are talking about the cybersecurity for the proactive methods. Proactive methods, this is the basic methods, but sometimes just like Pulwama case or 15 August or 26 January, the attacks are very high in my SOC. So in that cases, we take a proactive measures that if something is happened, what can be done? So one simulation process we do regular basis also, that the backup is working perfectly or not. How to, if some incident is happened, how to come over it. And we have defined what is our RTO and RPO and MTTR. These are the things we have placed and stick in our principle. That's why the second attack or anything does not happen to us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to my panelists on the right side. So basically now we are shifting towards the next theme, which is on securing critical infrastructure in the age of OT, IoT convergence. And with this increasing convergence, Akshaya ji, what are the most serious cyber risks emerging in the critical infra, and how are you mitigating them?
Good afternoon, all. Just one thing about this compliance. Just because this is the panel is about compliance, I want to two lines on the compliance, then we'll come to that. Actually, we say cybersecurity compliance, but probably except the finance sector, no other sector for anybody, there is serious compliances except this DPDP now it has come. And for power sector, the regulation is coming. And of course, one certain direction is there. Outside that, all are guidelines and advisories and this type of thing. So, simply speaking, except finance sector, there is probably no compliance to it, except of course ISO 27001 or something compliance if we are going, that is separate. Now this risk, see what I feel is in critical sector, most important is there are two types, internal threat and external threat. Now external threat is, it always be through internet. So connectivity guarding the internet is most critical part for us. Because internal threat, okay, because internal threat, there are many policies, many things you can say. Our primary focus is on internet. Where and how this is being used, what is the protection measures. And of course, IT-OT convergence is told. IT-OT is one part where due diligence is to be done. Because always we say from IT, there should not be any connectivity to OT. Because we should not control that. Now, this needs to be done at each and every level. Like you have to make a technical system so that even from their LAN, it should not be monitored or it can be done. You can do it only from the desk, from the operating desk. So that type of control, so that even if someone comes into your system network right up to LAN, they cannot do anything to system. At the end of the day, system's availability is most important. Now that is the primary factor. Similarly, when we IT-OT convergence, we say we ensure one-way data connection from OT to IT. And of course, your this vulnerability part, regular security audit, and identification of your vulnerabilities and weak points, and plugging them. Even if you in OT system, it is very difficult to close those vulnerability, but you can always have compensatory controls and ensure that things are guarded properly. Proper monitoring is most important because each industry, even the level of, even in one industry in power system, there are different level of risk categories. Some is more risky, other are less riskier system. So accordingly, risk-based approach, control approach you have to put. Thank you.
So let's bring in Sobhagya ji into this conversation. You are from Numaligarh, Bhudev ji from Numaligarh Refinery. So, sir, how are you seeing in the refinery industry this convergence happening, and what are the ways you are mitigating OT risks proactively?
Good afternoon. I am from Numaligarh Refinery Limited. We are an oil and gas refinery operating in Assam. So we fall under critical asset. So when we talk about the threats in OT environment and related to convergence of IT and OT, so IT-OT convergence is something like it has been discussed in a wide range of platforms, but still not much work has been done because conventionally when we see the OT team always they still wants to work in silos. They don't want to connect to outside world. They work in a air gap environment. So these are some of the things which are preventing IT and OT convergence. And on the threat perceptions, these days the external threat actors are more keen to attack OT systems in critical sector rather than the IT systems. Because when they are able to attack the OT systems, they can cripple the whole refinery or basically the operating plant, which will again have a huge impact on the economy. And since we are operating in east of India, we have been supplying fuel to the defense, Air Force. I mean defense includes Air Force and Army also. So ransomware is one of the critical challenge. So along with that, we also need to implement something called least privilege access, because inside the organization, if you don't have role clarity, so sometimes it might happen that a person who is not required certain access are given higher privileges, which might even give him admin privileges to certain critical systems. And at some point of time, if he does some mistake, intentionally or unintentionally, it might impact the system. On the other hand, we generally need to do network segmentation. And when we are doing a network segmentation, the inter-VLAN connectivity and the routing needs to be controlled. Another important thing in OT, what is happening is that there are different OEMs whose systems are already installed. And many a times the engineers are reluctant to come to to a remote area and asking for remote access for solving critical problems. And that point in time, when you have to give remote access, again, that itself is a critical, because at the other end, we don't know whether the system that the OEM engineer is using is trusted or not. So these are some of the problems we need to take care. On top of that, as an organization, we have now initiated deployment of 2 layers of firewall, because already conventionally everyone using firewall 1 layer. So we are now going for a 2 layer of firewall implementation, and that too from a different OEM. Because at some point of time, even if particular one OEM gets compromised, there is something else to protect our network. On top of that, we are also working on OT SOC, because OT SOC will soon become a reality for all oil and gas PSUs as per the new framework which have been designed. Even I was a part of the committee. All recommendations have gone to all the, it's a chairman and managing director of almost all the oil and gas PSUs. So even the ministry has agreed, and we are waiting for the gazette notification. In the notification, OT SOC will be mandatory, and some timeline will be given wherein all PSUs will have to comply. That is a mandate coming on, and also CISO will have some free hand now, because 2 deputy CISOs will be placed. That is as per the guideline. One from the IT, one from the OT, they will be reporting to the main CISO. These are some of the upcoming guidelines, which as a gazette notification is coming. And I have noted down some points, that's why I am looking. And on the industrial automation front, we are also going for 62443 certification, because that is the equivalent of ISO 27001 certification, what we have for IT. Information security management we have in IT, and for OT we have 62443. There are different levels. Organization immediately they cannot go for the highest level. There are multiple levels. They can start from the beginning and subsequently they can upgrade themselves. Another gray area in OT environment is that regarding the patch management, because the frequency at which the patches are released by different OEMs, basically the licensors and also the operating system vendors. So upgrading the patches is not that easy, because before deployment of the patches, we need to do a adequate testing of the patches. And for that, we need to have a test bed for each and every system, which is practically not possible. And like IT, late in the evening, we may take the system down, upgrade, and release it to the end user. But in case of a running refinery or a plant, it's not that easy in the sense, because you can't shut down a plant immediately. So shutdown window is very less. So that is one of the pain points for all the OT engineers. They have to wait for a yearly turnaround time, or unfortunately, if there is due to some minor mishap or some kind of a malfunction, if some shutdown take place unintentionally, that is the time window they get actually for upgrading to patch management. So another thing is that all organizations should go for a cyber insurance, because any amount of cyber security, different applications or security protocols you deploy, still no one is 100% safe. Any moment of time there might be a cyber attack. Another thing which I didn't cover is the internal threat, because we are always talking about external threat. So internal threat also needs to be dealt very critically, because there are some maybe employees who are not happy with the management, or maybe due to mistake someone is clicking something, and there are sometimes and someone doing mischief intentionally. So these are some of the critical areas I have highlighted for mainly on the platform in terms of OT security. And regarding convergence, it's still, I mean to say, still time is there to happen it actually, because exchange of data from IT and OT people still work in a conservative way. There are ways of one-way communication we can do, or we can also deploy data diode and all those kind of things. These are some of the things.
Thank you, Bhudev ji, for a detailed response. And it's heartening to see that there is a compliance also coming in the OT refinery side. And since all these challenges that our OT security has, let's bring in our technology panelist as well from Trellix. And let's hear from Debjyoti ji. How are our OEMs helping our CISOs sleep safely with this OT IoT convergence coming in and resistance being there in the OT side, and how are those challenges getting addressed from the OEM side?
First of all, good afternoon everyone, and thank you Anshul for the question. And as we all know that today OT cybersecurity is an important aspect. The days are gone, right, when the plant engineers or plant managers used to work in silos, but today when we see that OT is an important aspect, and we have the Purdue model which talks about different layers of security that needs to be there, and micro-segmentation that needs to be there. So there has been a framework, a model, that is a Purdue model that has been already accepted worldwide globally for OT. And also there are the NIST guidelines which has come up for implementing and the OT cybersecurity standards. So in terms of best practices that we recommend for OT security, IT-OT convergence is an important aspect. So the first important thing is having a complete visibility. On the OT side, as availability is very important, because that is something obviously comes over security for them, and we say that CIA is for IT and for OT it is AAA, right? So availability is the key consideration that is usually taken in the OT side. But now, because of the recent breaches that has happened, like the colonial cyber attacks and a lot of the examples that we know that has happened in the recent past, so that is the reason that these kind of security measures in terms of having a visibility across the IT-OT, the lateral movement of malwares that are happening from the IT side to the OT side. So those visibility and having a single pane of glass and going by a platform-centric approach is something that most of the manufacturing industry is currently accepting and being implemented. And that is the best practices that even we recommend, because cybersecurity is all about people, process and technology. It is not only about having a tool in your infra, but how you utilize that particular tool and what are the processes that you have implemented around that particular tool, along with the right training to the end user and the people and the employees. As Mr. Bhudev also mentioned, that having the insider threat, so having awareness and trainings to the insiders is inside employees is a pretty important aspect, so that they follow the right approach, the right practices when we talk about the IT-OT convergence. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Thanks, Debjyoti ji. Let's hear on this from healthcare side also, on the OT IoT convergence, as healthcare also this same convergence is happening. So how do you see that happening in our ICUs and other places in the medical place, sir?
Yeah. Majority of the health equipments is already been integrated with IoMT devices. Not only the lab equipments, it is the major instrument, life-saving instruments, just like your ventilators are also integrated. The issue is that when we are integrating any IoMT devices, and the machines is connected with generating the data from the machine, patient data from the machine. These machines has the very legacy software. Okay, some of the pieces even they are using the XP, and yeah, So replacing the XP, you can't replace it because it will not support their applications. Only things, the way out is that you have to change the machine. And machine is very expensive, it's not possible to change in a single day. So these are the challenges we have. For this, what we have done it, we have made a total visibility, how it will come up to lateral movements, and which can be displayed in a single consoles, so that you can use the lateral movement, how fast it is, and you know it, the every milliseconds of the data, patient data, it is coming to our database, and it is very fast. And we have around more than 300 IOMT devices in the ICUs. Other part is different. So this is a big challenge for us to make it this one. And we have changed our framework, that security framework, that how this legacy system to be out of our network. It has a separate network, and it has been monitored separately in different consoles, then observe it, and then you can do the reactions. Any lateral movement is there. This is the one step we have taken care of that. Third thing is that how this species should not be connected to the outside of the world, internet. Okay, that is also we have made a taken care of a policy as a policy, and it is being implemented. So that's why we have a least chance of any vulnerability for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Very important area, sir. I also saw YouTube where somebody hacked into a pacemaker and they were able to simulate a heart attack also. So this is an important area for us to be aware of. And thank you very much.
You have well defined that right now, where those who are using the pacemaker, after implanting the pacemaker, it is required that few months you have to calibrate it. For calibration, it is not required to come to the hospital.
Yes.
You have to do remotely through your phones. So right now, this is a very vulnerability. Right now, we are strict on this. It is a very good point because most of the peoples right now, they are not calling to the hospitals for this. Thank you.
Yep. Important area. So let's move to our next theme, which is around protecting sensitive data and ensuring citizens' trust. As we have CISOs from multiple PSUs, so I want to just get their perspective. Alok ji, starting from you. How are PSUs handling sensitive citizen data and continuing to build cyber resilience and eventually maintaining public trust?
Very long question. I'll try and be as short as possible because the answer is very fluid as of now because the entire regulatory landscape itself is changing and things are yet to be finalized, how to deal with it, who will deal with it. So you have this 18-month preparatory window. But before I come to that place, on a very lighter note, you asked the OEMs how they are helping the CISOs sleep peacefully. OEMs are not helping the CISOs sleep peacefully because till the time they were not there on the landscape, nobody told me that attack hone wala hai. जिस दिन अटैक होता उस दिन पता चलता है. Till the time this YouTube activist did not put that video on the nobody knew कि pacemaker पे आप मर सकते हैं. So and that was on a lighter note. Sorry. Now coming to the point of sensitive data. Now sensitive data basically is now being regulated under first IT Act, second DPDP, and there's some sectoral regulation that is going around that. But primarily it is now being governed by the DPDP. Now, in which case, what is the minimal thing that I need to do? First is I need to ensure that my data at rest or in transit is encrypted. So that reduces the chance of the data being, even if it is exfiltrated, the chance of that data being compromised or readily available for certain illegal or not so social activities is minimized. So first, as data is encrypted. Second is data collection itself has to change. You have to adopt the data minimization approach.
Yes.
You take only that much data that is essential for a particular transaction. You might need certain sensitive data as part of the transaction, might have a policy of sharding it as soon as the transaction is over. So that is the second part of it. A very significant part of it will now get governed by the notice and consent mechanism that has come into the DPDP. So if I permit you to use that data, you go ahead and use, but what does that mean, especially in citizen-centric kind of services? What does that mean? If the citizen does not permit me to use his personal data, am I going to deny him citizen services? That is the next important thing that comes in, which is right now not kind of a gray zone. And after the citizen has given his permission, the data reuse, refarming, and finally data deletion when he withdraws the consent. What are the restrictions around that? Because the minute he's given initial consent and in that consent reuse and refarming is part of it, I have shared it with someone else. He withdraws consent from me, I am able to move out. The second party has probably given it to nth party now.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that private data is getting, especially when notice consent is getting withdrawn, is not getting processed? That is going to be a big challenge. So that is something I, as of now, do not have a solution. But yes, what we are working at are just two things. One is securing the data at rest and transit. Second is, right now I am looking at only masking sensitive data. I have not gone beyond that. I have masked sensitive data. Notice and consent is yet to be implemented, so we'll see how there is mechanism going around, multiple solutions going around. What suits best, because this will again be unique to each business context. Each business will have a particular way of dealing with the data. And it is not just sensitive data, DPDP is dealing with sensitive data of individuals. What about sensitive data of corporate identities? Tomorrow M2M is coming in, where identity becomes important. What about sensitive data of this M2M identity? So this thing is going to proliferate further, which we are right now have probably not envisaged. Probably DPDP will be sufficient, may not be sufficient, but we need to look at sensitive data from the perspective of sensitive data and not whose sensitive data it is. That is another change that needs to be brought in. Thank you.
Yeah. Thankfully for citizen data, we still have 18 months to comply to. Government is still thinking of reducing the timeline. Hopefully they should not. And let's hear from Sandeep sir, that how is he seeing that in financial and lending data as area as well?
Most of the things are already covered by Alok ji regarding the DPDP and handling the sensitive data. So first, just I want to add to what he has said, that first step should be the visibility of data. You can't protect something which is not visible to you. So data discovery should be the first step. What data is residing in your organization, in which form it is, whether it is structured or it is unstructured. Then once the data is discovered, it has to be classified. Which data is sensitive and which data is public, which data is confidential. And that is also a continuous process. It's not a one-time exercise, it's a journey. Data which is sensitive in this quarter, till the end of quarter, it becomes public once the quarterly results are declared. So sensitivity of data has to be a constant process. We need to keep on doing this exercise, and once the data is identified, next step is of course the encryption and other protection tools. Tools are also to be wisely chosen, because now there is a problem of plenty. When we started our career, it was only antivirus and firewall. Now there are n number of tools. People just deploy the tool for the sake of deploying them with some fancy jargons given by OEMs. And what is the actual use of those tools needs to be checked. Their configurations are to be hardened using secure configuration document. There is no fun of deploying a firewall with any and everything allowed from that firewall. And when in the olden days, it was, just a very primitive type of cyber security. Like in the initial days, the name of virus, somebody created a virus in the name of his wife, because he wanted to create the trouble to others with the name of his wife. But now it is 10.5 trillion industry. Cyber crime is a third largest industry in the world. So accordingly, we have to be prepared, and in a situation of cyber warfare, we cannot be less prepared than criminals. So it's like raining all the times, and our umbrella and our raincoat and all the arrangements should be there. Otherwise, if you are reckless, you will be just carried away and your data will be misused. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep ji. And I know the pain that exists from the OEM side, but they are not also at fault because you only said that there is 3 trillion industry of cyber incidents, and our OEMs also have to stay ahead of the attackers. So, and that's the reason why the industry has so many products, and unfortunately, our attackers are still not stopping. Yeah, let's bring in Sumit ji from the media and broadcasting public information, and now that deep fake and other things are also there. So please bring in how PSUs are handling sensitive data.
Actually, no one want to live without the endpoint. The reality is that. So when we focus about to protecting the data, our more focusing toward putting the cyber resiliency in governance, technology and culture. Because when we see the large amount of data, so we thought there is all the data is not on the similar nature. There will be we will assessing the data on the risk-based scaling. And then after what we are doing, we are giving the risk-based controls also on that who can control what kind of the data. And the other things, we also doing the continuous auditing of the data. And the second, when I talk about the culture, I will not talk about the means only giving the awareness to the means our employees and all. We are role-based training should be given to them so that they able to understand what kind of the criticality of the data they are dealing with. And perspective of the technology side, at the time of the vendor assessment, we are doing the largely assessment, not someone who more focusing toward the costing side, and not only focusing on the technology side. We're seeing the perspective of the what kind of the controls they are putting on that by following the SOPs, policies, guidelines of the things we are dealing with. And for the proactive based approach, we are living in the era of the data-driven technologies. We have the historical large amount of the data where we can using our AI and ML based approach. So for that, we are developing the models. That model can be trained on the historical data. And then data will be, that model will be going to do the prediction, what kind of the risk will be going to generate it, for what kind of the behavior analysis will be there. So we performing all these things. So while doing all the processes, we are putting all the things to protecting the whole the data. So I can say that our always approach is putting the cyber resilience inside the governance and technology and culture to protect the citizen data.
Thanks, Sumit ji. Susil ji, out of all of us, you have the most difficult task in sensitive data. Most of the ministers in Delhi NCR, they come to your hospital. So how are you safeguarding all the data, including ours, when we come to your hospital?
Yeah. See, AIIMS is an institute for the data-driven healthcare and research. So already what you have spoken maximum things in the DPDP, already it is in place because we work in security, confidentiality and privacy of the patient records. So that culture is there, but regulatory was not there. So now regulatory has come up. And on the other part, you know it, cyber security it is as such, the Tom and Jerry, how they are playing in the TV. So sometimes Tom is upper and Jerry is down, and when Jerry is upper, then Tom is. So it is like that. So always you have to be more innovative, more proactive, that how the bad actors who cannot be entered to our own IT domains. What the bad actor better want from you? Your data. For accessing your data, they need your credential. Okay, another part right now it is coming up, that is the AI models. So AI model positionings. There are three things right now vulnerables in the cyber world. First thing is the data. So when data is there, already governance is in place. I have to make it secure. How to secure it? So earlier you are doing the data in an encryption form, and we have used the DLP within our organizations. But when DPDP has come up, some of the data, it in the screen, he has taken the photographs. So you have to do the watermark for it. You have to do the data marking. So new things it has come up. So that is we have to play roles because somebody is asking for the reports of a particular relatives. When you are giving it, whether I supposed to give or not. The basic concept of the healthcare is that healthcare record is who is the owner. The patient itself is the owner, and hospital is the custodian. So and the responsibility of the custodian is that the data has to be saved, and right person is supposed to access the data. So these are the things we have to play major roles. And second part is that you have to be more careful that data in 3 states. Maximum one people they say, I have done the encryption during the transmission. This is not. Data is drawn, you have done it. But when data is processed, you have not done it. Now people have started using the Kubernetes, and Kubernetes is more vulnerable for the cyber attackers. So that has to be taken care of it. The third thing is that data in rest, which has been already been vulnerable. And if you have done the encryptions, the chances of means hackers to get into data. So these are the things we are supposed to be following. Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to hear that our data in healthcare data is safe. And Alokji, you want to add?
Of course, your data is safe. And then last time, whatever it has been happened, the data is saved. And we have not used a single piece of data also.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Alokji, you want to add a summary on this?
I just wanted to add 1 or 2 more thoughts to what is going on today, especially with the sensitive data. We dispose our digital devices. We do not wipe it out. Even if you wipe it out, there is no means of doing secure wipeout, at least to the people at large who are affected. Practice around that needs to be developed at the institutional level. Employees disposing the device. If this is a device that is given to my organization, even if my administrator wipes it out, it is not a secure wipeout in any case. So that is the first thing that needs to be, one thing that needs to be seen at least from administrator's perspective on handling endpoint devices, which is very important because you dispose it as e-waste and that can come back to haunt you.
I agree with you. I don't sell my old phones. I still own my iPhone 1 as well.
So, and the second part of it with respect to sensitive data, if someone were to ask Sandeep about my birthday and my sexual orientation, and if Sandeep said Alok Pandey's birthday is 1st January 1950 and his sexual orientation is LGBTQ+, if this is captured, shared by someone else, does that data become my sensitive data? There has to be a mechanism to ensure that the record is authenticated by the user. So before treating any data as sensitive, maybe there's a case of saying that the data needs to be authenticated. And you have different means today available through which you can actually enforce it. Only thing is that it has a huge cost of compliance and enforceability. But maybe these 2 things one needs to see.
And another tool from our OEM.
No, that will, Aadhaar-based authentication will do with the record.
Thank you. Yeah, that way we are ahead of the other countries as well. So let's come to our closing theme, which is around cybersecurity culture, awareness, ecosystem, risk. And let's keep the technology aside for now. We've had a fair discussion on the OEMs. So Akshaya, how do you embed cybersecurity awareness across employees, partners, vendors to create an enterprise-wide ecosystem?
This employee awareness, especially for cyber security and in OT, is actually what we have taken is giving mere awareness training to persons is not actually accepted by them. Now what we started is ownership. That means each and every device, each and every service, each and every process has to be necessarily given ownership by someone, because some firewall in OT, that person says, I don't know anything about IT and everything vendor does and I don't know anything. If something happens, so make that person owners of that device. That means somebody must own that system. Anybody from organization must own that. Now that person who is owning them is told you are responsible whatever happens to that. Now he comes asking about the training. I need to know the things. Now that way, effectiveness of training is much higher than simply calling them for training and giving them know-how. That's what I feel.
Yeah, thank you, Akshayji. And it's important because you are running our power plants, and Bhudevji, you are handling a refinery. So how do you do in refinery on the awareness aspect?
Cybersecurity awareness is of utmost importance in an organization, whether it's an oil refinery or any organization. It has to be given top priority like fire and safety. Like fire and safety, all the organizations give top priority because there's a fire, it will destroy your building infrastructure. Similarly, if there's a cyber attack, it will damage your everything, basically your digital data, your reputation, your business will come to a grinding halt. So it has to be given topmost priority by the management, and the push has to come from the management for cybersecurity. 2-3 innovative things we have done in our organization. Like at the end of the year, everyone submits their performance appraisal. So everyone can submit their appraisal online, but now we have done something different. You have to undergo a cyber quiz. 20 marks and passing percentage is 80%, means you have to, out of 20 questions, you have to correctly answer minimum 18 questions. And if you fail, you can take the test number of times, and every time there's a huge data bank, different questions will come. Ultimately, you have to, people are now compelled actually, unless they pass this cybersecurity test, they cannot submit their performance appraisal. And when we talk about cybersecurity, the 3 key elements, everyone knows it, that people, process and technology, and people happens to be the weakest link in cybersecurity. So we are also conducting phishing simulation. We are sending some phishing mails to every employee, even to our board members also. If someone fails, he has to mandatorily undergo 1 week cyber awareness training. That is mandatory. It's been approved by management. On top of that, we also conduct red team and blue team exercise, but this is more of a technical thing. It's between our IS team and few OT team guys, we do it. And
Bhudevji, I was tempted to ask you how many of your board members are actually failing the phishing test, but that's okay, you don't need to answer that.
I won't comment this here. But everyone has to do it mandatorily. And on top of that, like ISO 27001, that is a basic requirement these days. So once you have ISO 27001 certification, your all compliance will flow in. You will have all different kind of policy, procedure and guidelines, which if you comply, you will have a robust policy. Thank you.
So let's hear from Debjyoti ji, since you see so many other industries, right? So please share the best practices on how industries are tackling on this cyber awareness aspect, while tools handle one aspect, but then awareness is really important. So please add your perspective.
Yeah, so cybersecurity is now obviously a boardroom discussion, right? So those days are gone that cybersecurity was a kind of optional, but now it's a mandatory process, and it is, as we say, that it is people, process and technology. So, from an awareness standpoint, in organization, as Mr. Bhudev said, that this type of phishing simulation, trainings on cybersecurity awareness is pretty much required. Even for any individual also, if you look at nowadays, we all are using smart devices, right? We wear smart watches which are connected to Wi-Fi, and we have very vital parameters in that smart watch, like our heartbeat, our pressure, right? Even some, and obviously it's running on a software which is vulnerable. So any attacker who gets access to the smartwatch, right, they will have the vital parameters obviously of the individual. So obviously those things need to be taken into consideration now, that security is a way of life. It is how we are looking at life. We need to secure everything that we have. Data is the new oil, as we know, and obviously cybersecurity is the utmost importance that we should go. So obviously layered security approach is something that we recommend. Having multi-vendor environment, because it is not about having more and more technologies or product, but it is having a layered security approach, which is something that we recommend for all the organizations. And that should be coupled with a process that needs to be driven effectively. and yield the maximum outcomes out of the investments that the organizations have done, right? And obviously now DPDP coming into picture, now there are penalties up to 250 crores that can be imposed by the DPDP board, right? So now it's a law also that we see, as well as it is a requirement that needs to be relooked by each and every organization today in India, and it's obviously a food for thought now.
Yeah, thanks, Debjyoti ji. And any questions from the audience? We have CISOs here, and we've heard that cybersecurity is not just their jobs, but it is everybody's job. So anybody has any queries, question, else we can go to our closing question. So good, we don't have any questions from the CISOs. And maybe everybody's understood what we are trying to convey. So let's hear the closing remarks, as in one key area, one key practice that you would want or you feel that is the most critical in cybersecurity. So starting with Alok ji.
One key practice, in fact, you put that question to Bhudev ji, boards. The corporates have been quick to understand, that realization has come to them, that you need specialization in info and info security. So you have the CIO, the CTO, or the CISO as part of the boards. Unfortunately, government, we have a concept of ornamental CISOs. Competence or not, you're nominated as a CISO. And the same story is there with the PSU boards. The PSU boards today, IT and info security is actually being covered as a finance function. So there is a case for expansion of PSU boards to include at least a CTO or a CIO or a equivalent person, if one person who can wear multiple hats, maybe a CTO. So that kind, the PSU, if PSUs have to leverage technology, deal with info security, you need to have a person who, on the board who understands the nuances of all these things. Thank you.
Thanks. That's, while we see that happening in the corporate side, but it's important that this also comes through on the PSU side. Sood ji, any key practice that you feel that you want to add?
Whatever security controls we put in place, human become the weakest link in the chain. So awareness to employees through phishing simulation exercises, like one of the panelists said, and keep checking their awareness level and organize the training to users and also to the management for the latest cyber trends and awareness, definitely going to help.
Okay, let's hear from
security and privacy by design. If you do it there, then it will be half of the job will be done at the initial stage only.
Thanks, Sumit ji. Sushil ji, from your side.
Yeah.
Just
it is
one
about
practice.
more than 93% that through phishing the attack has been happened. So employees awareness and the social awareness is much more, it plays roles. Many people do not know if their accounts is hacked, what to do. If you ask, how many of you know that if your account is hacked, what to do first? Anybody? You see. So this awareness is required. Otherwise, first you start from your own, because if your own data
the
is
answer
not...
should come, change your password.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the answer we want. And I think we need to do more on the awareness side as well.
Awareness side, yeah.
That's the weakest link. Thank you. So Akshaya ji, your perspective.
What I feel is, as per our industry, I can say power generating company, see, resilience is most important thing. You must be ready. There will be attacks. Reduce the blast area, ready for the resilience, and do your best. Wait for the best to come.
Yeah, important point, because incidents will happen. All of us have faced it personally and in our corporates. So how ready are we? How quickly we can recover from that? Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, I'll tell two things, not one. So for me, zero trust network access needs to be implemented by everyone. It's a framework. That is first. Secondly, in my opinion, since alone as a PSU we can't do anything, we have to depend on technology partners basically. So it's high time, like there should be a collaboration between the PSUs and the technology companies to make good and beautiful products, which would be helpful for everyone.
So, Debjyoti ji, your task is cut out. So, a lot of CISOs are demanding things from you. And you were generous in your previous piece that there should be multiple OEMs involved. So, one closing key practice that you would want that you feel is critical for
Yes.
cybersecurity?
So one important aspect that I want to highlight is having always a plan B. If the plan A doesn't works, if there is an attack or a cyber breach, how prepared you are to face it, how quickly you can react, how quickly you can remediate. So that is very important. That having a plan B always in place in case of an attack or a cyber breach, and how an action can be taken quickly to remediate that particular attack and come back, and having a BCP, that is a business continuity plan, is very important today in today's changing, evolving threat landscape.
So now this brings to a conclusion to our panel talk, and I'll thank all my co-panelists for sharing insights, and this should ensure, they are ensuring the critical data in our PSUs are safe, and thank you to all of you once again.